Good afternoon, Deputy. Can you please state your full name for the record, spelling your last?
Sarah Michelle Vaught, V as in Victor, A-U-G-H-T.
And are you employed?
Yes, I am.
Where?
With the Warren County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity?
I am assigned to Deerfield Township as a patrol deputy. I'm also a member of the crime scene unit, and I'm a field training officer.
How long have you been so employed with the Warren County Sheriff's Office, Deputy?
Since August of 2014.
As a member of the crime scene unit for the Sheriff's Office, what are your duties and responsibilities?
Our duties are to arrive at felonious crime scenes, process them, and preserve the evidence.
And does this require any advanced training?
Yes, all members of the crime scene team have to be an evidence technician prior to being put on the team. And then once on the team, you're expected to attain your Master Evidence Technician certification through the state.
Did you obtain your evidence technician training?
Yes, I've had my Master Evidence Technician since 2014.
And where did you obtain that?
Through OPATA, the state commission.
What is OPATA?
It is the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy.
Thank you. And then you said you are at some point supposed to obtain your Master E-Tech?
Yes, that's what I got in 2014.
That was through, so let me clarify, was your basic evidence technician training through OPATA?
Yes, in 2011.
And then you also secured your Master Evidence Technician?
Yes, in 2014.
Have you attended any advanced training beyond that?
I've also went to the University of Tennessee's Forensic Anthropology Outdoor Recovery course, otherwise known as the Body Farm, in 2016.
And you say the Body Farm. What is that, please?
It's part of the University of Tennessee's Forensic Anthropology Department. It's about a 2-acre facility, and they take donated bodies and put them in all different types of circumstances, and then watch their decomposition, gauge it scientifically. They also do body burials and recoveries, and they teach law enforcement how to do this.
And you attended that course as well?
Yes.
Now you've been referring to 2014. Did you have prior employment before that?
Yes, I was employed at the City of Monroe as a police officer.
And how long were you with the City of Monroe?
For 5 years.
Thank you, Deputy. I'd like to direct your attention to July 20th of 2017 and ask if you were working on that date.
I was not working.
At some point during that day, did you have occasion in your official capacity as a member of the crime scene unit to get called into work?
I was called by Sergeant Namofsky at about 1:30 p.m. And he requested that I respond as the crime scene unit because the forensic anthropologist who was evaluating the skeletal remains that had previously been found believed that the bones showed evidence of burning prior to decomposition.
And those were bones that were excavated on the 14th of July?
I'm not entirely sure of the date, but they were excavated from 104 Eagle Ridge.
Prior to July 20th?
Yes.
And so in your official capacity with the crime scene unit, did you in fact respond to a residence located at 104 Eagle Ridge Drive in Carlisle, Warren County?
I did.
And who else was with you on that date?
Detective Beheimer, Deputy Hammonds, Coroner Updegrove, and Coroner Investigator Burke.
And did that entire group respond to the residence?
We did.
When you responded to that location, were there any family members present?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And when you first get there, do you recall approximately what time it is?
We got on scene at the house just a bit before 5 p.m.
Okay. Were you aware that a search warrant had been obtained for that second date?
Yes, Lieutenant Fain had obtained a search warrant.
Okay. And when you first get to the scene, can you please walk us through how you initially began your processing on that date?
Deputy Beheimer put up the crime scene tape around the house. And
when you say the house, is it the house and the yard, or is it just the structure of the house?
Yes, he went in the yard outside of the house, on both sides, and all the way to the back property line as far as he could.
Thank you.
At that point, I started taking exterior photographs of the home and the yard. We knew they had a fire pit on the northwestern side of the home, and having gotten information that they believed the body had been burned, we were going to primarily investigate that fire pit.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Deputy, I'm showing you what's been marked States Exhibit 41 through 52 for purposes of identification. Can you please take a look at those photographs? You recognize those photographs, Deputy?
Yes.
And can you tell us, are those the photographs that were obtained of the scene that was processed on July 20th at the defendant's residence?
Yes, these are the photographs that I took.
And do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the scene that you observed on that date?
Yes, they do.
Showing you what's been marked as States Exhibit 41 for purposes of identification, Deputy. Can you please tell us what's depicted in this photograph?
This is the northwestern side of the home and the fire pit that I mentioned earlier. In this corner here, you can see those are our buckets that we were intending to use to put the dirt from the fire pit into. And then it goes back to the backyard of the home. You may have seen these in prior photos up against the wood line in the backyard.
And let me ask you this, Deputy. Although you have information that there may have been burn injury to the skeletal remains, do you have any information as to where or how or in what manner that burn may or may not have occurred?
Not at this time.
So when you are starting at this fire pit, is that just because it's a source of fire?
We knew the fire pit was there, and we figured if you're going to burn something, you're probably going to use a fire pit.
But you didn't have any direct knowledge or evidence to indicate that something did or did not occur in that fire pit?
No, we also knew that they had not examined the fire pit when they were at the home previously.
Okay. So when you start examining the fire pit, what, if anything, do you do?
We pulled these, there was a pallet and some other debris on top of the fire pit. We pulled those off. And after we took those off, we found some bones laying on the surface of the ash on the pit. So we collected those bones. Coroner Updegrove examined them briefly on scene and said they appeared to be animal and not human. But we did collect them anyways to be further examined. At that point, we gridded the fire pit off into quadrants, and Detective Beheimer excavated the dirt in quadrants into our evidence buckets.
And Deputy, did you find anything in the fire pit that didn't appear to be animal bone?
We did not.
Okay. And you mentioned another individual. Was Coroner, you had mentioned the individuals from the crime scene unit. Was Coroner Updegrove also present with you
Yes.
on this search? While you are in the process of looking through the fire pit, do you receive a call from Lieutenant Fain?
I believe Coroner Investigator Burke is the one who received that phone call.
And were you aware that on that date, Lieutenant Fain was talking to the defendant at another location?
Yes.
And was information shared with those of you that were at the scene that she had disclosed where the burial site was at?
Yes, at that point, Lieutenant Fain told us that Ms. Richardson had disclosed to him that she actually tried to or did burn the body at the gravesite before burying it.
And did you have any information based on the prior search where the gravesite was located?
Yes, we knew the location of the gravesite.
Okay, showing you what's been marked as States Exhibit 42 for purposes of identification. Can you tell us what is depicted in this photograph, Deputy?
This is the backyard tree line of the property, and we're almost dead on like where the gravesite is. It's in this general area back in the tree line.
Showing you what's been marked as States Exhibit 43 for purposes of identification. What are we looking at in that photograph, Deputy?
This is the identified gravesite area.
And there appears to be a playhouse or something sitting right behind it?
Yes.
And is that what that is, a child's playhouse?
It looks like it was made out of plastic, like children's playhouses are made out of. It had a few items inside of it.
Once you go back to the original burial site, Deputy, what do you do at that time?
At first, we just do a surface level scan of the area. We knew that obviously had already been excavated and all the soil had been put back into the burial site. So the bones had already been disturbed. My concern, we knew that we were missing the leg bones and the feet bones from what had already been recovered. So initially I'm looking for long bones. Those are going to be what's easiest to find. Knowing that it had already been excavated and put back, I'm expecting maybe some of those bones are just going to be on the surface. It had also been several days since the prior excavation and it had rained since then. This was on a slight grade, so we also checked downhill a bit from the gravesite area.
Deputy, show me what's been marked as State's Exhibit 44 for purposes of identification. Can you tell us what is depicted in this photograph?
This is a top-down look at the gravesite, and so you can see the general shape and then the ivy covering, already covering back what was excavated prior. There's also one long bone in this picture in this general area. There's a closer picture too, I believe, right?
Yes. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 46. And let me go back out.
So this is a long bone just sitting on the surface of the grave.
And is that a closer up?
Even closer picture of it.
And was that, in fact, one of the missing long bones?
Yes.
For the legs? Deputy, showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 48 for purposes of identification. What is depicted in that photograph?
This is another wide shot of an area where another bone was located. I think it might be upside down, but
I'll show you a close-up of that. State's Exhibit 49 for purposes of identification.
so this is the second long bone that we found on the surface of the grave.
And you kind of explained that, but was it surprising that bones that had not been found before were now up towards the surface?
Not at all.
And why is that?
When you dig out a grave site, you disturb it. Everything gets jumbled around, and they didn't take the soil from the grave initially to examine for anything else. They just put all that soil back into the grave site. So they've jumbled it all up. It's all been mushed around and then put back. Kind of like when you drop your groceries or something, and then you just quickly put them all back in the bag. They don't go back in the same order they were in previously. So now they're exposed up on the surface. And that's exactly what happened. It's just from the grave having been disturbed and then being put back.
Deputy, you said that the leg bones were missing and the feet bones?
Yes.
While you were out there, did you also find some smaller bones in addition to the long bones?
We found some small items that appeared to be possibly foot bones. So we collected them. It's hard. It's very, very hard with those very small bones to tell just looking at them like this if they're actually bone or if they're rock. So anything we saw or found that looked like it could be a small bone, we just went ahead and collected them to be evaluated at the lab.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 50 for purposes of identification. Can Can you tell us what we're looking at in that photograph?
This is one of those small bones that we're speaking of. Again, just it's on the surface, just in the grass.
And showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 51 for purposes of identification. Is that a close-up?
Yes, that's a
That
close-up
same bone?
of that, what we believe to be a small bone.
And were those bones collected, photographed, and packaged?
Yes, they were.
Did you also take a look inside of that plastic children's house, if you will?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 45 for purposes of identification.
This is inside the playhouse. There's a bamboo pole here, and there's maybe an article of clothing back there, and then a lot of ivy has grown up in it.
And other than photographing and documenting the entire scene back there, do you know if there's anything located in this house that had any evidentiary value as it related to the case?
No, after just glancing inside, we didn't see anything that appeared to be skeletal.
Did you find a small piece of cloth near the gravesite?
Yes, on the surface.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 52 for purposes of identification. Can you tell us what we're looking at in that photograph?
These here are actually two small pieces of frayed cloth. We were told that the infant may or may not have been wrapped in a cloth at some point. So these items were collected.
And again, other than receiving some of that general information, did you know whether or not that small article of clothing or cloth or what have you had any relationship to the burial site and or any evidentiary value?
No, I did not.
You said that it appeared frayed on the ends.
Yes.
Was there any indication of any burn marks on
It didn't appear to have been burned. Just looking at it with my naked eye, it didn't appear to be burned, just frayed.
it? At that time, was all of the soil from the gravesite collected?
Yes, Dr. Updegrove excavated the grave soil again and into our collection buckets.
And were all of the bone fragments in the soil released then to the coroner's office?
Yes.
Deputy, approximately how long were you at the scene on that date?
We were on scene about 2 hours, maybe a little over 2 hours.
After the crime scene unit completed processing the scene on July 20th of 2017, did you have any further involvement in the investigation of the defendant?
No.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Deputy Vaught.
Vaught.
Sorry. Deputy Vaught, what time did you arrive at Eagle Ridge?
A little bit before 5 p.m.
And one of the purposes was not only to excavate the fire pit, but to go back to the original gravesite, is that correct?
We were looking for the missing long bones, yes.
Missing long bones. And did I hear you say that you expected to find those long bones because they probably got lost when they were digging up all the soil and stuff?
Yes.
This is the second search of that gravesite, is that correct?
Yes.
And the first grave site search was July 14th.
I wasn't involved.
You weren't
in it.
there.
No.
And nobody informed you about anything about what happened at the gravesite during the first search.
I knew that they had searched it. I actually went and reviewed their photos from that day before going to the scene on the 20th.
Mm-hmm. Did you review this particular photo and put on this device here? It's marked as Defendant's Exhibit FFF. Did you review that photo?
If it was in the group of photos from the prior excavation, then yes, and then I looked at it.
You did look at it. Do you notice the brush in
Yes.
that photo? We just heard from Deputy McKay, who was there at the first search, and she indicated to us that everything was just below the surface, meaning they didn't dig anything.
Okay.
So, would that in any way change your opinion that these bones all of a sudden appeared because there was soil that was disturbed and dug up and everything like that? Did that change your opinion?
No, because there was soil that was disturbed and dug up. You can see the skeletal remains are not laying just on the surface, correct?
Correct.
So there was at least some digging and disruption of the soil that occurred.
Well, if I recall Deputy McKay's testimony, she said all they had to do was brush away the soil to get to the skeletal remains.
Okay.
Just how?
So then they were very close to the surface.
Exactly.
And I had explained that it did rain in the meantime. There was still disruption to the gravesite.
I notice also, you didn't notice the big flower pot that was there the first time, did you, when you were there at the second visit?
The flower pot was still there. It was moved. It wasn't on the gravesite anymore.
I have no further questions.
Any other questions?